Good morning. So we're up to Siman Shin Samach Gimel, working through this very long Siman, all about the halachas of Lechi and Kaira in a Mavui, and we're up to Sif Chof Aleph. Chof Aleph says the Mechaba. Haisa Yetza Mikaisel Zeh. So we're talking about a Kaira. You've got a Mavui, as per all the various pictures, and you've got a Mavui which leads on to a Risharam. So you cannot carry in that Mavui unless you make some sort of heka at the front, either a lechi or a kaira, or a tzuras pesach, as we've discussed. And now we're talking about the various halachas of a kaira. So it says the mechaba hoisi yitzah mikaisel zeh. If it goes from one side of the mavui, one wall, ve'ein negas b'kaisel zeh, and it doesn't quite make it to the other wall, kagoyin shesomcha al amudim. You've got to prop it up with a pillar. So if you take a look at footnote 58, which is at the back of the sefer, it's on page 9. In the back of the sefer, and so you've got a pillar which is holding up the rest of the kaira. It doesn't go all the way across the front of the mavui. Yeah, you see that? So that's what we're describing. V'chein shtei kairas, and so too, if you've got two kairas, achas yetza mikaisel zeh, v'achas yetza mikaisel zeh, upagu zu bezu be'emtza mavui. Now that's picture number 59. That's on the next page, on page 10 at the top. Can you see you've got two kairas going across, and they don't quite reach. So you've got two pillars at the entrance of the mavui, propping up each sort of these half kairas, which don't go all the way across. So that's picture number 59. In both of those cases, if there is less than 3 tfachim, either in the first picture from there to the end of the wall, or in the second picture, in the second case, between the two kairas, then it's kasher. Yesh b'neim shleisha psula. Okay, so quite a straightforward case. So again, the Mechaba is talking about pictures number 58 and 59. You need to put up a kaira. You're trying to put up a kaira to allow you to carry in this mavui. In the first picture, in 58, it doesn't quite go all the way across. And in picture number 59, you've got two which go from one end, both ends, but they don't get all the way across, and you've got pillars propping them up. So long as there's a gap of less than 3 tvachim, you're okay. You apply love, and more than that, you've got a problem. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Sifkotten Samach Zayin, Ve'enu negas, va'afilu muruchekes mishnei aksolim ki agavna, kagoin shenotz eitz be'emtza b'hamovi v'niach kaira oleha, and that's picture number 60. Yeah, that's what he's just describing there is picture number 60. Can you see that? There's a third possibility where you've got a beam, a pillar in the middle of the entrance of the mavui, and then you've got a kaira going across, and they don't quite reach the two ends of the mavui. Yeah, all of these permutations. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Omrinan Lovad Mishnei Ruches. You're allowed to say Lovad from both sides, that it's close to the ends of the wall on each side, and that would be okay if it's within 3 tvachim. But if it's more than 3 tvachim, then psula. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Liyavi kaira acheres. You need to bridge the gap by bringing another kaira, yir lamali re'arevach ha'ug b'chatichas kaira, to fill it up somehow with pieces of a beam to make sure that you've got a gap of less than 3 tvachim. Okay, good. Next sif, chof base. Heniach shtei kaires zu betzad zu. So you put two beams, two kaires next to each other. Now this is picture number 62. These pictures are very useful, I think. 62. Can you see that at the back there? So you've got two parallel bars next to each other. So heniach shtei kaires zu betzad zu. Now we said yesterday that the kaira that goes across the front of the mavui, which allows you to carry the mavui, has got to have a certain shear. It's got to have a shear of a tefach, and it's got to be able to hold a brick along it, 3 tefach by 1.5 tefachim. So now you've got two kairas going across, but they're both quite thin and not particularly sturdy. So says the Mechaba, hiniach shtei kairas zu b'sad zu. You've got two kairas next to each other. Lo bezu lekabel orach, v'lo bezu lekabel orach. Each one on its own is not able to hold a brick. Im yesh b'shteihen kedei lekabel orach l'rachbay tahanu tefach. If you can if the two of them together can hold a brick, which is at least it's got a width of 1 tefach, then ve'ein bein zu lezu shleish tvachim, and there's not a gap of 3 tvachim between them. then ein tzorech lavi kera acheres. That would work. That would do the job. V'im lav, but if there's a big gap between them, then tzorech lavi kera acheres. You've got to bring another beam to bridge the gap. They've got to be within at least 3 tefachim of each other to say lavet. The yesh oimrim, and there are those who say shetzorech shu krov zuluzu b'toich tefach, that 2 parallel beams across is only going to work if they are within 1 tefach of each other. And we'll see the reason. The reason seems quite obvious. The Hainu Tefach, says the Mishnah Samach Tes, the Hainu Tefach, the two together are going to have to be able to hold the Tefach. Rotzolema, she was Shnei Rechovin Biyacha Tefach. That together they have a width of Tefach that they can hold a brick which is 1.5 Tefachim. Right? So imagine if it's 1 beam across, you all need is a thickness of a Tefach, and that you put this brick, which is 3 Tefachim long and 1.5 Tefachim wide, you put it in the middle of the beam, of the kaira, and you've got a quarter of a tefach hanging over on each side, and you just sort of secure it, and that's okay. But here you've got 2 thin kairas going across, so then, so long as together they combine to make a tefach, you'll be okay. Why? Because if they're within 3 tefachim of each other, you're okay. However, the yesh oimrim, that is not okay. They've got to be within a tefach. Why? Svir lehu de lo shaykh kanatim mishum lavud. It is not shaykh to say lavud over here. Because you know lomtas are here, you know you can say you can apply lavud, but your brick is going to fall through, and it's got to be within a tefach of each other to hold this brick. But if they are separate too far, then it's not going to be able to hold a brick. The Orach, but teich tefach. Because, as we've described, this brick has got to hold, it's 1.5 tefachim wide. And you've got an overhang of a quarter of a tefach on each side. And therefore, the gap cannot be more than 1 tefach, otherwise it would just, physically, you will not be able to hold it. Okay. Chof Gimel. Now, this we don't have to turn any pages. This is picture number 64. Now, it's a bit confusing from the kairos over there, but I don't know if you can see it, but what he's trying to draw over there in picture number 64 is where you've got 1 beam on top of the other. Now, so imagine you've got 2 kairos, you've got parallel bars, but they're together they're going to work. Because they're together, they've got the right dimensions and strength to serve as a good kaira. The trouble is they're not aligned. They're not parallel. One is on top of the other. So says the Mechaba, you've got 2 kairos, but one is higher up and one is lower down, as per that picture in 64. You picture the upper one as if it was conceptually lower, and you sort of conceptually take the lower one and you raise it. You can do that, and that works, so long as the upper one is not higher than 20 amas, because otherwise it's no longer considered a kaira. The lower one is not lower than 10 tefachim, because then it won't be considered a kaira. It's got to be between, like Hilchas Sukkah with your schach, it's got to be higher than 10 tefachim and lower than 20 amas. And furthermore, you can't have a gap of more than 3 tefachim between the 2 beams. Neither in height or in width. So in order to you to sort of equate them and align them, they've got to be within 3 tefachim of each other in height and width. And then v'yesh paislim, which is going to be exactly the same shitta as we had in the end of the last sif, which didn't allow it unless they're within 1 tefach of each other. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Sif Katan Ayin Gimel, Haisa, Kan Bala Haisif, Revusa. Here we're coming to teach you an extra chiddush, Al Sif HaKodim, over the previous sif, that afilu im lo hayishtei hakeiros she'ein b'kol achas lekabel orach. Even though each individual keirak has not got the strength to hold, or the dimensions to hold a brick, that's when they are parallel. But here the chiddush is that even if one is above the other, within a distance of 3 tefachim, you apply the principle of Ryan as if you can sort of bring the upper one down or the lower one up, and you can align them. You can either bring the lower one up or the upper one down. Or bilvad, so long as the upper one is not more than 20 amas high, Because if it was, even if the lower one is close to it, you can't say that the upper one is as if it's lower than 20, given the possible, because right now it's in a mokum pasul, it's over 20 amas, and that's invalid for a kaira in a mavui. And so too, if the lower one is lower than 10 tvachim, and the one above it is a little bit higher, it's 11 tvachim from the ground, but Turkish tvachim was within 3 tvachim, for example. We don't bring up the lower one to align it with the upper one. It hasn't got a status of a kaira right now. It's in a place of psul. Bekavona. What was that going on? I involve. And you align them. That's what it means. You're sort of equating them, aligning them, that they're next to each other. You've got to make sure that within 3 tvachim of each other, then you can apply the principle of lovud, and therefore it's as if they are next to each other. Exactly like the first opinion in the previous sif. However, v'yesh poislim. Why? Mishum desvir lehu, because this stringent opinion is of the opinion. We don't say royin if it's even to say lovud, because physically and practically it's not. In Hilchas Sukkah, we say yes, we do say this, but Pshitos b'sif heid im hasichuch hu mevulbel. In a situation where the schach is all mixed up, ve'echod lemala ve'echod lemata, and you've got some schach which is higher than 20 amas, and some schach which is lower than 20 amas. Sorry, not 20 amas, that's wrong. It's within 20 amas. If it's more than 20 amas, you've got a separate problem. It's within 20 amas. And you've got schach, which is a bit higher and a bit lower. And there, the Mechaber says, you do say lovet in Hilchas Sukkah, and no one argues. And here you've got 2 opinions. Does it have to be, can you say it within 3 tefachim of each other in Hilchas Erevin? With Sukkah we say it, but here we've got a yesh poislim. So the difference is this. Shani hacha to bo'in shiruin lekabel orach. Here, the criteria is that the kaira has got to be able to hold an orach. Or be'echod lemala ve'echod lemata ein ruin lekabel orach. And if you've got one higher and one lower, it's not going to be able to hold this brick. V'hainu da'afilu im gevoyas tefach echod mechaver gam kein lemana. And even if one of them is within a tefach, and it's just a little bit higher, tefach higher, it still won't work. Because of Rabbi and therefore the second opinion over here says that practically to hold this brick, they've got to be within 1 tefach of each other. They've got to be aligned properly in order that they can physically hold this brick. And the Eli Rabbi says you should be machmir for this. Okay, so just to summarize today's limud, we've had 3 seifim. The first seif says that if this was picture number, this is at the back, picture number 58, that if you've got a kaira which doesn't quite reach across, if it's within 3 tefachim, then that's okay. You need to put a pillar up to hold it, to just practically to support it, but that would be sufficient. And so too, if you've got 2 sort of half beams, short beams, and they don't quite reach across together, you can put 2 pillars in front of your mavu entrance, and you have one going from one end and one going from the other end, and if the gap is less than 3, you're okay. Or you have a pillar in the middle, and you can put it across within the 3 tefachim at the end, then you're going to be okay. Then we said in Sif Chof Beis, that if you do 2 beams next to each other, so long as there are 2 opinions. One says they've got to be within 3 tefachim of each other, and together, independently they can't hold an orach, but together they can. So if they were there within 3 tefachim of each other, and then together they could hold it, that would be okay. And the yesh omrim, they've got to be within 1 tefach of each other. And then in Sif Chof Gimel we said that if they're lemalam of each other, then we say something called royin, and so long as they're within 3 tefachim of each other, it would work. And the yesh poislim, and there's some say it doesn't work. You've got to practically be able to hold it. In Sukkah, everyone agrees that you do say it, but here, because they've actually got to hold the Orach, they need to be within 3 to 4. They need to be much closely aligned.